Hello everybody! Today we're going to unbox the Excelvan rectangle mute double watch winder, take a close-up look and then test it out. So let's go ahead and open up the box. So there are 4 rotation settings for the watch winder. So that's the user guide in 2 languages. And let's remove the watch winder from the box. Make sure there's nothing else in the box. Always check. There we go. We've got what I think is the power adapter there. So let's put the box aside. Put that protective paper aside. And there it's got this beautiful black, shiny, glossy finish. And let's put that canvas bag aside. And actually let's remove the power adapter. And let me show you the cord length, because that's always quite important when it comes to sighting or placing your watch winder. Okay, so the cord length is decent. It's a decent length. Okay, so let's put the power adapter aside and take a close-up look at the winder. So as you can see, it's nice and shiny and there's quite a bit of weight to it. The underside, so there are 4 rubber feet to prevent it from slipping, and of course it takes batteries as well. So it takes what appears to be 2 C-cell batteries. We'll test it out with the batteries in a moment, so let me put the cover aside. Oh, and I could see a key shaking about in there. So this is actually lockable, which is quite handy because it prevents people from meddling with your watches or even your setting, or your winding setting, rotation setting. So that's pretty handy. Let me just, whoops, kind of slammed it a bit. And that's locked. And there we go. So it locks and unlocks very simply. And it's just a simple key, nothing fancy. So it offers some basic level of security there, which is better than nothing. Okay, so let's take a close-up look at the pillows or cushions. So they're quite firm, so there's no spring in them or anything, but they're quite firm, so there's no need for any springs, which is great. Okay, so I've got my 2 watches as usual, which is one of them is my Swatch System 51, the first generation, which I've done an unboxing video before. Okay, so let's strap that up. Did I do it properly? No, let's loop that through. Not quite tight enough, so let me redo that. There we go. Okay, so this is a 42mm case diameter watch. So it gives you an idea of what kind of size this winder can handle in terms of, yeah, the types of watches it can handle. So obviously that's pretty much near to the limit, and I've got my 14mm Rolex GMT Master 2 here, which I'm going to put in there as well. So you can see they're perfectly sized watches for this winder, but I wouldn't use anything larger than 42. You could try 43 because you don't want them to be too close. If you've got two 44mm watches, they're probably very nearly touching each other. So this is pretty good in terms of the size that it can handle for 42mm. That's the limit. I wouldn't try anything larger than that because that's not going to be too comfortable to to watch. Okay, so let me put the batteries in here. You want to be careful and keep the lid down. Okay, so oops. So it appears to take D cell batteries, not C. So well, I've got two D cell batteries here. So let's put the D cell batteries in there. And then close it up. And then flip it back over. Obviously you want to put the batteries in before you put the watches. So I made a bit of a boo-boo there, but that's for me to worry about. Okay, so there are 4 settings. Let me turn it right down and off. So let me show you the settings in there. So the very first position to the furthest left of this control dial or knob is off, followed by clockwise and then anti-clockwise and then bidirectional and bidirectional. So there are 2 unidirectional rotations and the next 2 are bidirectional rotations. So let's turn it on to the first position. And you can hear there's this very low motor noise there. And this is with the lid open. So let's put the lid down. And it's practically almost silent with the lid down. I'm going to bring it in close so you can have a better listen. Okay, so the first rotation setting rotates it clockwise for 2 minutes and then pauses for 6 minutes, and then it repeats that cycle. For the second position, it does it in anti-clockwise, so the same thing, 2 minutes rotating anti-clockwise, pausing for 6 and then repeating. And then the third setting is the bidirectional setting, so it does positions 1 and 2 together, so it's a combination of rotating clockwise for 2 minutes, pausing for 6, and then turning anti-clockwise for 2, pausing for 6, and then repeating that cycle. And the final setting, position 4, is another bidirectional setting. It rotates clockwise for 5 minutes, and then anti-clockwise for 5 minutes. It does this for 3 hours, and then it rests for 9 hours, and then it repeats the cycle again. So you've got a good range of rotation settings. So 2 unidirectional settings and 2 bidirectional settings. So nothing too complicated in terms of adjustments there, because some of the winders have 2 knobs. One for like the type of rotation and the program of the rotation. So over here there's a power switch, so we can turn it off just like that, and it's stopped, of course, and we can turn it back on. So let's plug in the power. Let me remove the batteries first, and you can see when I turned it over, the watches stayed in position, so that's quite nice to know that the cushion is rightly sized for their spaces in the turntable. So I'll take out the two D cell batteries, not C as I mentioned earlier. And we'll close that up. And then once again, I have to remind you guys to power your unit first, as in plug in, before you put your watches in. Don't do what I'm doing, because you might end up damaging your watches if they somehow fall out. But so far it's been great. As you can see, the watches are staying put. Okay, so let me turn the power switch back on. And let me rotate it anti-clockwise. And don't forget, you can always lock it up so nobody can mess about with your watches or your settings. So that's the Excelvan rectangle mute double watch winder. Thanks for watching and happy winding!